Shabbat Shalom. The Torah portion of Noach is a strange one. And I don't mean the whole ark and all the animals part, although I'd be happy to discuss that later with anyone else on the incongruities of how most people consider that text to have unfolded. But I'm talking about what comes later on, the part after they come by Tuzi, and after the ark is opened up, and after Noah thanks God, and after the rainbow appears in the sky to say that God will never indeed destroy this world. What then is Noah's decision? How will he set about rebuilding this world? What will he do in this post-apocalyptic landscape? The soil waterlogged, so many thousands of people gone, animals needing to be repopulated. What is on the top of his to-do list once it is clear that there is a lot to do? Does anybody remember what he does first after coming out of the ark and everything is ready to begin anew? He plants a vineyard and he gets drunk. Now, I don't know whether you've ever seen those survival handbooks, zombie apocalypse, nuclear apocalypse, climatic apocalypse. But from the ones that I have seen, it doesn't say plant a vineyard and get drunk near the top of the page. That does not usually seem to be a priority for most survivors of catastrophes. Oh, yes, they'll need something to drink, but really? Getting drunk? And as we'll see when we read through this in more detail, he gets really drunk, not just a light drunk. But really, this represents the ambivalence that Judaism has towards alcohol in general. Judaism believes and says in numerous places that alcohol isn't such a good thing, that alcohol is something that blinds the eyes, that alcohol is something that will glimmer and seduce you into darkness, that alcohol is something that can poison your body and ruin your life. Indeed, there are some of our commentators that when they ask, what was that particular tree that the first man and woman ate from, they do not say that it was an apple, for indeed apples are nowhere mentioned in that section of the Torah. And indeed, apples as we know them as a domesticated fruit were not domesticated for many, many thousands of years later. But instead, they posit that the tree from which they ate, the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, was a vine, was a grapevine. That was what they ate. And indeed, the commentators say, because we know that wine has the ability to ruin a life. And we can see that, they argue, even there with the very first human beings, of how their life was upended because of partaking of the fruit of the vine. But I am very consciously aware that over there in our COVID-safe disposable cup, rather than our usual fancier Kiddush cup, we've got the fruit of the vine. Am I going to be poisoning our young bar mitzvah? Is this my attempt to lead him down the path of wanton debauchery? Is this going to turn into a bacchanal where he is getting his first taste of indulging in that which will consume his life and lead him into rack and ruin? No, obviously not. First of all, it's grape juice, which is a fruit of the vine and is perfectly kosher for saying the Kiddush over. But more to the point, Judaism, with all of its antagonism towards drunkenness and towards the plague that can come from liquor, still tells us, have wine for your Kiddush drink. Have wine when you celebrate a wedding. Have wine when you celebrate a Brit Milah, the circumcision and entering of the covenant of a young man. Have wine at almost all of our sacred holidays and occasions. If wine is so terrible, if liquor can be so problematic, why make this a pillar of so many of our celebrations? Well, what in the world is going on here? Didn't they read the story about Noah? Didn't they see all the problems that came from the guy who planted the first vineyard and what he did afterwards? Yes, they did. But yes, they also know that is not built into the wine, but built into a misuse of the wine. Judaism believes and says very clearly in the Psalm for Rosh Chodesh, as well as other places, that wine can be a source of gladness, that wine can be a source of happiness. Indeed, the Talmud goes so far as to say that ein simcha bli basar vayayin, there is no rejoicing without meat and wine. And as a consummate carnivore, I can definitely get on board with that bumper sticker. I certainly like to have both of those for my celebrations, but both as well in moderation. As everyone knows, a little too much meat can not be good for the body as well, and so too much wine or other liquor can be bad for the body. In its right proportion, in a way that is controlled and constrained by sacred ritual, as well as by occasions which we wish to enjoy to their fullest without losing ourselves, we can see that wine becomes an instrument of joy rather than an instrument of despair. Because with Noah, that was really what his problem was about. He built the vineyard, he drank the wine to forget. He saw no hope. He saw no future. He looked at his children and wondered, what kind of world would they live in? Would we repeat the same mistakes of the generation before the flood? Would God simply have to let the world be washed away again, despite the promise symbolized by the rainbow? He sought to drown his sorrows, much as the thousands who had been drowned by the flood. But that is not wine's purpose. That is not liquor's purpose. Those who seek to escape this world through wine, rather than to celebrate the world by this wine, are having the difficult relationship that we see with so much of God's creation. We need only look to other difficulties with narcotics, opium in particular, which can be, in the right measure and in the right time, a beautiful palliative care in order to remove pain, to allow someone to endure the suffering that is brought on by injury or surgery and to recover and allow their body to heal. But when abused, when overused, when used to escape from this world, it becomes a monstrous addiction that pulls them down and down further into darkness. So what is the solution? The solution is not to ban all of one or to permit all of one. We do not say no wine ever. We do not say as much wine as you want. We say this much wine for joyous celebrations. But if you are feeling despair, if you are feeling as hopeless as Noah, if you are feeling like the world has no betterment, don't turn to a bottle. Certainly don't turn to an opioid. Turn to a friend. Turn to your family. Tell them of your fears, of your concerns. Tell them of the hopelessness that you are feeling. Tell them of your depression. And find your source of strength with them. Find your source of strength with the humans that can give you love and that can give you hope for the future. Because you will find no solace in the bottle, and you will find no solution in any of the many things that can intoxicate us in this world. But with each other we can eventually overcome that which brings us despair, and we can raise a glass in joy, raise a glass in happiness. And then there's nothing wrong with that. Shabbat Shalom.